This video is intended for educational purposes only. Please try not to self-diagnose via stuff you read and see online. Okay, thanks. According to the NIH, a burnout is a psychological syndrome emerging as a prolonged response to chronic interpersonal stressors on the job. When you're burned out, your energy level is at a negative balance due to unmanaged stress. Symptoms may vary from back pain, headaches, fatigue, hopelessness, lack of motivation, and depression, which in the worst case scenario can lead to premature, sudden death. Yep, death. I experienced my first burnout at the age of 23. I quit my marketing job of 4 years. I dropped out of college even though I had 1 semester left. I left the relationship I was in. I discontinued my yoga practice. I became borderline homeless. I lost my sense of identity, and it got to the point where I was crashing on couches daily. And eventually, I had to pick up a serving gig to make ends meet. When the body, mind, and spirit undergo too much stress for a prolonged period of time, it begins to hit a wall and deteriorate. And when we're looking at a burnout, we're looking at the risk of illness, disease, and even death. In Japanese culture, this phenomenon is called karoshi, which in English translates to overwork death. A sudden death due to constant stress at work. And in this video, we'll go over reasons why people burn out, what to do in order to bounce back from a burnout, and how to prevent a burnout. Okay, so how do you know you're burned out? The symptoms can be broken into 3 categories: physical, emotional, and behavioral. Physical, you have constant pain, whether it is a headache or back pain. You lack motivation, you are fatigued yet restless, and you're constantly sick. I burned out last year in November. I was on and off sick for 2 months. No matter how much I slept, I was constantly tired with a migraine. It got to the point where I regularly subbed out my yoga classes, and at this point, I had to pause and rest. Everything had to drop. My work, my career, my yoga practice, because all I wanted in that moment was to get better. Emotional. You're constantly filled with self-doubt and fear of failure. You are filled with cynicism and bitterness. You dread showing up for work. You are resentful whenever you talk about the work that you do, and it shows up in a pretty negative light. Behavioral. You start dropping the balls left and right. You stop taking accountability for not showing up, and when it gets really bad, other symptoms include constant irritability and substance abuse. So how do we get here? Aside from taking on more than you should with school or work or friends and family, because you know, the FOMO and the guilt thing, here are 12 phases of a burnout provided by psychologists Herbert, Freudenberger, and Gail. Phase 1, excessive ambition. You are excited and optimistic, so you take on all of the things, everything. Phase 2, you push yourself harder so you do not fail your own personal expectation of yourself. 3, you're now neglecting yourself and your personal needs because you are drowning in work, and that is all you have time for. 4, displacement of conflict. At this point, you are now making mistakes and you're not owning up to your mistakes. You are now worn out and you are physically tired. 5, you change your values in order to validate the amount of time you're putting into work. So you stop spending time with your friends, with your family, you stop hitting the gym, you discontinue your life outside of work. 6, denial and blame. You are annoyed and bitter. You start blaming your work and not the decisions that you've made in discontinuing your life outside of work. 7, social withdrawal. When the burnout gets really bad, this is when one finds themselves needing a chill pill or a drink at the end of a workday. And instead of spending time with their peers and loved ones, they begin to isolate. Phases 8 through 12 consist of identity crisis, inner emptiness, depression, which ultimately leads to physical and mental collapse. And if you reach phases 8 through 12, you're either gonna keep pushing and be consumed by bitterness, or you're gonna drop everything and walk away. Which is pretty much what I did when I was 23. Go me. When these stages are prolonged, your amygdala, the most inner part of the brain, the center for emotions, your fight or flight, your amygdala gets bigger when these stages are prolonged. So what does that mean? When the core neural system that processes fearful and threatening stimuli gets bigger in one's brain, that person is then in a constant state of fear and threat, leaving one with anxiety and depression. Yikes. So how do we bounce back from a burnout? Industry-leading corporate wellness advisor and TEDx speaker Allan Ting developed 3 simple steps that can be identified as AIR. Cool, great. Aspiration, integration, and rejuvenation. Aspiration. Work for something that you love. Check in and find your greatest aspiration in life. If you're a parent, your aspiration is probably going to be your child. And if you are an entrepreneur, your biggest passion is probably to be successful at your work, your craft, and your product. And oftentimes, your work is what supports your family, regardless of what you do. In this step, we reevaluate our priorities and make the changes that we need in order to move forward. Integration. The ideal work-life balance should be 50-50. When your work and life have competing priorities, your two lives are bound to clash. Integration reminds us of the flexibility we see in tree pose. Notice the bent and tucked leg is flexible. Building flexibility in both work and life will help develop contingency plans in both places. Got priorities at home? Talk to your boss. Need to stay longer at work? Talk to your family. And eventually, that standing leg will get worn out and tired. So remember to switch legs, meaning switch from work and back to life. Rejuvenation. Charge your battery. Rest first and foremost is the #1 key to rejuvenation. When you are well and performing, you'll want a handful of things. But when you're sick, the only thing you'll want is to get well and get better. Another thing that is also a key factor to rejuvenation is a vacation. Staycation or travel, unplug from work for a week or two. Then you can start recollecting the most important things in life. And dare I say, the most important things in life are not things. They are your mental health, your interpersonal relationship with yourself. It is the people that we love and the memories that we create with them. Now that we've already talked about bouncing back, let's talk about what we can do to prevent a burnout. Now, aside from the typical measures that your doctor will suggest, such as taking breaks, diet, and exercise, here are a few other things to consider that will help prevent a burnout. Meditation. While meditation brings peace to the mind, body, and spirit, studies have shown that it also strengthens the connective capsules at each chromosome, meaning that the practice itself can even lead to a lengthened lifespan. That's pretty cool. Time management. Organize your time and have a set daily schedule. Use the bubble of integration to keep track of your tasks and work content so that you don't have to keep wondering when and where the next thing is. Organized workspace. A clean and organized workspace will help uplift your spirit. When organizing your physical workspace, consider your theme, lighting, and the colors that will induce happiness to your soul. And last but not least, ask for help. When inner conflict arises, ask for support, an ear, or a second opinion. And depending on where you are mentally and financially, perhaps seeking therapy or a counselor can help you move forward and have some clarity and direction. So how exactly did I bounce back when I was 23? I quit my service industry job knowing that it was my only source of income. I was lucky enough to have community. My dearest friend offered me her place to stay under the condition in which I was gonna work my hardest to find a job and a career that would inspire me to live my fullest life. Eventually, I landed a position as a marketing manager and yoga teacher at a high-end fitness studio. I began to pave my way back to a life that was full of creativity and joy and movement. Now, I do still struggle with burnout here and there, but never to the extent in which I had burned out at the age 23. Whenever I feel myself approaching a burnout, I start filling my cup while I do still pour myself into work. I put my health first. I put my life first. I peace the F out on a beach somewhere. I go back to yoga. I start rooting myself in things that I find love and joy in. I'm approaching 30 this year, and I'm proud to look back at all the things that I've created, facilitated, and led. From all of the accomplishments and failures, and even after all of the findings in researching for this video, I can still say that the #1 undeniable source of nature and nurture for any human needs, except for food and water, are the people and the connections that we make. We live in a fast-paced world where success is measured by productivity. However, it is counterproductive to overwork yourself to the point of illness and disease. So take a fresh breath of air. Clock out at the end of your shift, go on a walk, eat a fruit, find a hobby, and spend time with the people you love most.